Goodbye, Teacher Tired. 5 ways to doing fewer things better. I recommend this free 5-day challenge. Just go to coolcatteacher.com/challenge and stay tuned at the end of the show to learn more. Interestingly, coming in at number 2 episode for season 4 is one that I did telling a story at the beginning of the school year. And it's called Trade the Cow and Start the School Year Well. And you could actually apply this for starting a new year as well. Enjoy.
The 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with Vicki Davis. Every weekday, you'll learn powerful, practical ways to be a more remarkable teacher today.
Today, I have a story that I want to tell you that so applies to the new year. Now, I did tell this story at Woodward Academy this summer, but I had so many teachers who came up to me and said, this is really helping me adjust my year, that I wanted to tell all of you out there who listen to the 10-Minute Teacher. Now, if you've heard of Will Rogers, he once said, "I never met a man I didn't like." He was known to love people and to be such a friendly and affable person. But there's a story that he once told about something that had happened on his ranch. Now, he had a large ranch and he had a lot of cows on his ranch. And I've worked with cows before on our farms, and they can be really, really challenging. The cows can always get out and, you can... I just happen to remember being pregnant with our oldest and chasing a cow across an interstate, and that was no fun. Well, Will Rogers had a cow get out. And even more than that, the farmer next to him had actually killed the cow. Now, the protocol in those days were that if you had a cow that got out and someone killed your cow, that they told you, because that meat and that beef was still yours. Well, Will Rogers had found out that this farmer next to him had killed one of his cows. And he was pretty upset about it. So he got on his horse and he got a farmhand to go with him and rode out to this man's house. And it was a pretty big distance, and an ice storm came up, and Will and his farmhand, they were so cold. So by the time they got to the farmer's house, they went inside and they were completely frigid, couldn't really say a word. Well, the farmer wasn't there, but the farmer's wife was there, along with some pretty ragged and thin-looking children. And it was pretty cold outside. So she said, "Come on in, let me warm you up, let me give you some coffee." And she just started serving the men. Well, as Will Rogers was warming up by the fire, he started looking around and saw that the children, they looked kind of thin and kind of hungry. But you know what? Smiles came across their face when the wife started talking about the cow that they had killed and how the kids were going to have beef. They were going to have steak. And the little kids' faces would light up. Well, of course, you know what had happened. Will Rogers knew that this was his cow. Well, a couple hours later, the farmer came in and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't quite finish butchering the cow tonight because it just got so cold and out there." And looked at his little kids and said, "But we're going to have beef this week." And the kids were so excited. They were jumping around and they were just thrilled. Well, Will Rogers went to open his mouth, and you know what? He just said he closed his mouth again, didn't say a word. And the farmhand is just kind of watching because he knows this is Will Rogers' cow. It was so cold and such a night that they offered for Will Rogers and his hand to stay. So they stayed overnight. They got up the next morning, fixed them breakfast. And, they really didn't have anything in the house to eat but beans. So they had beans that night, and they had beans for breakfast and some coffee. And you know what? When they got ready, Will Rogers just didn't say a word about the cow. They got on their horses and they headed back to the ranch. Well, after some quiet, the farmhand turned to Will Rogers and said, "That was your cow." And Will Rogers said, "Yep." The farmhand said, "Well, why didn't you say anything?" And Will Rogers thought for a moment and turned to the farmhand and said, "You know what? The way I see it, I traded that cow for happiness." Well, this story is such a great story for us because let me tell you something. There are times when you are right and you've been treated wrongly. Somebody's done the wrong thing. Somebody's made the wrong decision. where somebody has misjudged you. You know, one of the things I'm so afraid of as a teacher is being misquoted by my students, which happens sometimes. And things just happen that are unjust, that aren't right. And if you're teaching at the same school for more than 1 year, I promise you, you're starting your school year with a cow that somebody has killed and you were treated wrongly. Now, the way I look at it is you have a choice here. You can go after that person and hold them accountable and be angry, but you could also trade the cow for some happiness. You could choose to forgive. You could choose to move on and just let go of that bitterness and that anger and that resentment. I'll tell you this that I've learned in my now going on 17 years of teaching. When I'm a bitter person, I can't get better. I can't innovate. I can't create because I'm so busy being angry about the cow that I can't let it go and have happiness. So, my dear friends, your motivational Monday thought for today is, do you have a cow that somebody's killed? Are you angry? Are you bitter? Are you resentful? You know, here's the thing is that I've always read that being angry and resentful is like drinking poison and wishing the other person would die. It doesn't work. We've got to let go of things that have been done to us that are not right. And, you know, the longer we teach, the more those things are. And I've got a lot of those things too. Sometimes, you know, even though I've changed schools, sometimes I'll still wake up in the middle of the night and I'll think about something 7 or 8 years ago that happened, or I'll think about a mistake that I made. Sometimes the person we need to forgive is ourselves because we've made a mistake. So I'm just encouraging you as you start this school year, could you just take a moment at the end of this podcast, turn it off, listen to the quiet of the road or cars honking or wherever you are on your commute or your day and just let go. Let go of that resentment, let go of that bitterness. So you can get better and you can be your best for your students this year. Will you do that? I don't know about you, but I am such a busy teacher and I know that you are too. What if I told you that in 5 days, you could be more productive and have some great tips to make your classroom more efficient? Well, that's what I'm recommending today is the Goodbye Teacher Tired 5 Days to Doing Fewer Things Better Challenge from my friend, Angela Watson. She is sort of my productivity guru, and I am so glad that I have participated in her 40-hour work week and learned so many of her tips and things that can make my classroom better and do. So to get this in your inbox, just go to coolcatteacher.com/challenge and learn more about it. Sign up with your email, and you'll get information on how to join the free challenge.
Thank you for listening to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. You can download the show notes and see the archive at coolcatteacher.com/podcast. Never stop learning.